So, hello and welcome. I have the lovely, well, I'm assuming lovely because I don't know you terribly well, but the lovely, so far so good, Dave Kibby with me today.
I've been well behaved for the last 5 minutes. So let's
exactly.
go with that.
You know, nothing terrible has happened yet. So I've got the lovely Dave Kibby with me here, who has been in my awareness, shall we say, for a number of years. And this is just one of my 60 conversations where I'm reaching out to people, potentially some I will have connected with and others not so much, just to sort of have a conversation, see where it goes, see if we can talk about anything useful for people maybe. But we were just saying before I press start, we were just talking about I've been in this conversation since about 2011. And I know, what I see, what makes sense to me has changed enormously in that time. And yet very often the words I use, the things that I say, the things that I write are maybe not very different, but what is happening inside me is incredibly different. So I don't know, what's your experience of that being, Dave? Have I
like that. I think if I could pull out like one, I suppose, big difference, because when I think I came across the principles about the same time as you, actually. I think 2011, sitting in Joe and the Juice in Regent Street with Jamie Smart was when I first came across it.
Yeah, Jamie Smart that time.
Yeah. So I think that was the first conversation where somebody said that there's this thing, or these things, or whatever. So, and it impacted me massively, like really, really quickly. So I think a lot of people relate to that.
Yeah.
And went through the evangelical stage and everything. So so I think hold still, everyone. I've got something you need to hear, that kind of thing.
Yes. Bang you over the head. I don't care what you want. I don't care whether you want to know
that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not interested in you. I've got this thing I need to tell you with. So sit still while I off I go. So probably the biggest difference between then and now is I used to think that to some degree the principles were something kind of separate from life and special, and that you had to talk about them in a certain way, or you had to share what your favorite teacher said or whatever. So in other words, kind of what could be a very long story short, I had a lot of rules.
Yeah.
A lot of rules about this thing called sharing the principles, or coaching from a 3P understand, or whatever. A lot of rules, like a big lot, because my normal way of learning things, I think probably like everybody, was to accumulate data, to accumulate information. And even when I heard phrases like "it's in the feeling," I would accumulate that as data. Oh, right. Oh, okay. It's a feeling. Okay, fine. It's in the feeling. Yeah. Okay. Tick. There's another fact I can whack out during interviews or meetings or whatever. So I really, in that sense, I thought it was something special and unusual and almost like apart from life. Like there's this thing called life and how we live, and then there's this thing called the principles. And if you were lucky, you'd get painted by principles paint, and then you'd wander around glowing of principles, and that would all be very lovely. And people would look across the road and go, "Oh my goodness, what is that jacket he is wearing? I must have that jacket immediately." And they'd start hurling cash at me and think, yeah. So I had all of that going on. And then I suppose over the years, I realized that the principles were everything already. And it really made no difference whatsoever whether I understood it or didn't, or claimed to or didn't. It was all irrelevant, because it was all made of the same good stuff. And the only thing that would keep me blind from the good stuff, or hidden from the experience of the good stuff was my own interpretation using my own intellect of what was going on, which would be contrary to what was actually going on. And therein was the issue. And it was that 100% of the time. Not sometimes that, and sometimes something else. It was always that. And somewhere in there became the freedom to talk to anybody about anything and recognize that that was a conversation about the principles.
I love that. I love that. When you were talking, one of the things that was occurring to me, I had a religious upbringing, and it really felt like religion was this box over here, this thing we did on a Sunday, this, and yet it had relatively no bearing on, once Monday morning came and we were doing what you do having well done Monday morning, this was a separate thing over here.
Yeah,
our lives were kind of what we did, and it didn't feel never the two shall meet sort of thing. It was very much like you worshipped God, and God was this thing over here, that was this, that was how you did that, and when you did that, and where you did that, and it had no bearing on your life. And I can see, like, almost that, I don't know what you would call it, integration, learning curve, that seeing of the same thing. It's like, the principles were this thing over here, that you were better than some people if you knew it, and that sort of thing. And then the realization, the gradual dawning of the realization, and it was always there, like, this is an explanation, this isn't a doing, that right from the start, though. And like you say, but accumulate it as knowledge, something to know, rather than a lived experience of, this is what is going on right now in this moment, this is what's happening, this is my lived experience, is this playing out, not a tick box of this.
Absolutely. And there's real freedom in that, isn't there?
Gosh, yes.
So rather than thinking you've got to I think sometimes for me, conversations about the principles were, a little bit like going to the first tee on golf, and you'd look at how many yards it was, or meters or whatever, and then you'd select the right club, and then you'd make sure you'd have the right length of tee and the right ball, and that people were clear behind, and then you take a massive swing at it, and you'd hope it would roughly go in the right direction. And there was no one in the way as you hit it. It was a bit like that. And then I can't really remember when, but it just started to get, because a lot of conversations are kind of a bit, esoteric and like, well, what have they got to do with somebody cutting you up on a roundabout, or trying to come to terms with, the end of a relationship, or the end of a life of a loved one? What's it got to do with any of that? Or parenting, or anything. And then just like you were saying, it just becomes clearer, but not in a way that gives you any doesn't give you any advantage in a funny kind of way. It becomes clearer that it's just what you said. I loved what you said, actually. That's just, it's playing out, if you like, with the implication, or with the effect of the principles, but we're not the cause. But the fact that we have a thought-created individual experience is an implication of the system at work. And somehow that takes a lot of heat out of it, even when I'm being a total knobhead. It just takes the heat out of it. I see my, this is no longer child-friendly, is it? I just said knobhead. Now I've said it twice. But so it just takes the sting out of the tail. So when I see somebody else, doing or being what I would categorize, and obviously that's my category, not necessarily theirs, it's like, oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, that's, I can run that routine as well. Yeah, I recognize that. And that brings us back into sanity and commonality with each other versus it being like a sect or something that's separate, or a flag you can wave, or I think you said a superior thing. It's, you know, it's none of that. It's seeing that we're all in the same boat all the time. We're all on the same arc, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2.
I love that. I love that the way that it like brings you together rather than separates you. That's definitely in my experience. Yeah. Well, having got past, it feels like there are I don't know if everybody does this, but like you say, the evangelical stage, and I remember one day a friend of mine going, "Oh gosh, I know where you're going next. You're going non-duality next, aren't you?" And obviously, foraying into there and what have you, and just kind of the places that you go with it. But then ultimately, definitely for me lately, what I have been seeing is, like there would have been a time I would not have reached out to you. That would not have happened because my thinking would not have allowed that to happen. You know, I wouldn't have been good enough, or I would have been too good, whatever, just crazy, stupid stories that would have looked real and true to me. And seeing those stories running, seeing them for what they are, and then just doing what I want to do, if, you know, whatever, doing it. And not taking notice, and seeing that in other people, and so being able to see both myself and them with less judgment, apart from when I am judging.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love that. I love you. You know, you made reference to the fact that you can really see for yourself the innocence of our own self-judgment, because as far as I can see, that's really the only game in town. Like, if I'm judging you, then I'm judging me.
Absolutely. Because
so I've solidified you as this separate thing in the world for me to now need to have an opinion on and to validate it, and then to project onto you and go, see, told you, look, she's like that. Overlooking completely that that's just 100% of my own creation in the moment. And that's innocent. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and goes, do you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to be as judgmental as anything, particularly towards myself and people I love. That's what, I can't imagine anyone goes through that. That's not how it plays out as far as I can see. So no. I love that you've seen that for you. And I love that I'm blind to that, apart from when I don't. And then I hate it. I hate when I'm blind to it. I hate it. I hate it when I read something and go, oh no, I do that. I don't want to. Surely it's always got time in it, hasn't it? Surely by now.
I love that.
Surely by now. Come on. There must be an advanced track I've missed somewhere. Surely just one more book, surely one more audio, surely one more video. I shouldn't still be doing that. And it's like, well, yeah, probably, and probably to the end of time, I imagine. Well, it would be the end of time, because if time ended, you wouldn't be doing it anymore. Because
no,
but anyway, I was straight down the rabbit hole there. But yeah, completely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Judging until the judging stops, and then yeah.
It's a fun game, isn't it? It's a really, really fun game.
Well, apart from when it isn't, yeah. Then it really sucks. Because then you can get really judgy on yourself. And I can remember, obviously I wouldn't do that still, but if this isn't video, then no one would have seen me nodding my head then. But like only last night, for example. But that idea that it shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't be like this. This is wrong. This is bad. I'm wrong. I'm flawed. And I can take you back in time to why I'm flawed. And I can show you all my evidence of my own flawness. And I can go and get witnesses for the accused who will corroborate with me my ludicrous stories of how I'm flawed and how bad that is and how wrong that must be. And it's just like, you know, when I'm sane, I can see the madness of that, you know, the freedom, and yet the total lunacy of being able to make up your own torture chamber and project it into the world and act it out like it's true and feel terrible. I mean, that's like, I don't know, Sid called it the cosmic joke, didn't he? I think other people have as well. It's like we're such powerful creators, or creations so powerful that it can give you the delusion that you're not involved within it, that it's this other thing called them out there, what's doing it to you. And that's a mind-blowing blessing or curse, depending on how the weather's going, I guess.
Yeah. I know, like, because of the problems that I created in my life, many of them, the realization that this is me, sort of thing, was a huge, oh, okay, so nobody out there did this to me. Oh, right. And that's both one of the most difficult things to hear and one of the most freeing things to hear, and sort of.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. And to realize that the meta innocence of all of it was that, you know, you didn't set out to do it.
No.
It just seemed to be what happened.
Yeah.
Given what was occurring at that apparent time, that seemed to be how it played out. So I was able to look at some of the cataclysmically awful, you know, decisions or whatever that I've made over the years. Not that one could really claim that, but for the sake of argument, claim that. Because how would you really know if something was cataclysmically awful anyway? In the span of the universe, it would be impossible to tell, wouldn't it? But anyway,
let's pretend that's a
let's
pretend we can have a conversation
for the moment. Let's
Yeah.
let's acknowledge it, and it's like, well, yeah. I mean, given, I sometimes like the word skill level. You know, given the skill level of, or the operating state that I was in, no big surprise. No big surprise, and there's no judgment in that, and there's no kind of dismissing it either. There's like, it's strange. It's a paradox, isn't it? There's full accountability and yet no responsibility in the same vein. So like completely accountable for it, and then in a sense there's no responsibility, because given what looked true at the time, that would have been the only option. It just wouldn't have appeared to be other options, because if there were saner options, probably I'd have opted for those. So it wasn't like ooh, look, I could be kind, I won't be. It's like, well, there was obviously no apparent choice of. That's why I think people have to be a little bit careful running around with, you can choose. Well, you can when choice appears, yes. But I can promise that when I'm getting hot under the collar, it doesn't look like there's any choice to me, and that's the issue. It's that it looks like choice is hidden. Theoretically, it's there. Of course, somebody in a saner state of mind would be able to point me to that, maybe. But when I'm off on one, I'm off on one. Like, hell hath no fury like a Dave scorned. I mean,
yeah, it is. Yeah, I find that fascinating. That yeah, like you say, the paradox of it. I know a good few years ago, Beck and I work with my two nieces, Beck and Lucy, and Beck and I sort of had this realization, and for ourselves we coined the phrase take responsibility whilst knowing you're not responsible.
Yeah.
And you know, go with, for me, I love following the feeling. It's like, what does that feel like? What does it feel like? Because, you know, in any given moment, there are moments, like you said, there are times when I can see choices. There are times when I can see my responsibility. There are times that I can't. And it just feels like it's not either or. It's not it's not we have a choice or we don't have a choice. You can't Because the moment, it's like having this conversation, the moment we start to use words, we're not, what is it, the Tao that can be spoken isn't the Tao. Like, this isn't.
No, completely. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah.
You're pointing, you are a signpost, you're pointing in a direction. And I know for me, like when I see someone, if you're getting all tangled up because you think you should have a choice and that feels bad and it's not great, then just realize you haven't got a choice and don't worry about it.
Yeah, completely.
But if you're going to, I guess it's and that's in a way where the difficulty is, because equally there are times, and I think it's a personal thing of knowing yourself, like there are times when I knew I had a choice and didn't make a good choice. There were times when I knew there weren't choices there. There were times when I had a choice and made a better choice and things like that. And I think for me, it's just like, right, it isn't one thing. It is all of it. And what appears to be available now. What's the best you can do in this moment? What's the best you can do in this moment?
Yeah, I love it. And it's funny, isn't it? Even with like choosing, by the time, like the human bit of the brain that claims choosing for itself, so what we would call the self or the me or the I, by the time it does that, the whole mechanism's done anyway.
Yeah, so by the time we know about it, it's
by the time knowing kicks in. Oh, look, I chose that. Like, you reckon there was something that someone who instigated that? No, the claim is at the end, not at the beginning. It's like, it's crazy, but that's just how it seems to play out, attempting to make sense of it and fitting it into boxes which we can then call my life and report on. This seems to be it. I mean, if you think about it, if you think about how much data is coming into, through the senses and whatever else is available through the brain, and then is condensed down to something far smaller so it can be like logically interpreted. I mean, how could one ever claim that was a reality, really? I mean, that's so filtered. It's a ludicrous idea, actually. Just to the straightforward point of principle, to coin a phrase, it's such a crazy idea that one fragmented interpretation could then be claimed as what happened. I mean, how on earth would you know? Really? I mean, it's just, but it doesn't mean that we don't act like it. Of course we do, but it's bonkers. It's fundamentally nuts to claim that you really knew what was going on. Oh, I really knew. No, you didn't. That's a total fantasy. I mean, how could you know? It's like, what is it? Millions of bits of data condensed down to far, far, far less to create a representation, an internalized representation that's projected out as a reality, and then the brain goes, well, that's mine. I mean, the whole thing's like, it's screwy, it's cuckoo, really.
I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about looking in this direction and seeing it, and things like I've read quite I love reading my Bible, and I love reading A Course in Miracles and things like that.
Yeah,
that direction. And that is like exactly what both of those things sort of break down very, very like little tiny bit at a time, that whole idea of you in one sense, and this whole idea that you could know that could happen like that. I mean, a lot of the things are right, you can't know. And if you sort of, one of the days on the Course of Miracles, it's looked down, it's like, I don't know what my computer is. I don't, it could be a dog. I don't know, look at a chair and call it a hairbrush, or look at
completely.
Yeah. Kind of seeing the whole.
This is only my hand, from the habit of labeling it as such.
Yeah.
And it appearing in view and going, oh, that's my hand. But without that, a baby isn't born going, oh, that's my hand.
No, you actually see it's I've got a 2-year-old granddaughter, a 4-year-old grandson, a 2-year-old granddaughter just coming up too, and you can really. I've watched them both recently, from this perspective, getting this idea, they're kind of
completely, yeah.
oh, and almost sort of beginning, this thing that's moving, and then they're like, what's that thing that's, oh yeah, what on earth is that thing that's moving? What
exactly.
is that thing that's moving?
And then what's making it do that?
Yeah, like they have no clue that it, but
why is it doing that?
Yeah.
And of course, the moment you report on that happening, it's stopped anyway. So all reports are after the fact. The hand moved. Did it? I mean, like, really, did it?
Stop it. So yeah, I love that, and I love those conversations. But also, one of the things recently, obviously, one of the reasons that you have come back into my awareness is because you have been making a lot of noise recently and talking about what you're doing. You went to Mumbai, you've got interest in something there, and clearly something happened. And one of the things that when I was talking about the evolution, I guess, of understanding the principles, for my personal experience, with exploring, it definitely started for me with the principles, and then exploring other things and looking in this direction and going. And it definitely feels, which was one of the reasons why I was very interested in what was going on for you. It kind of feels like I'd almost got to a point of, well, so what then? Yeah, I get this. And definitely, my personal experience from what I can know and what I do know, my life is night and day different to what it is. I'm basically, I feel contented and happy, and I freaking love my life. And I used to absolutely hate it. And, I seem to be happy. I seem to enjoy what's going on. And then it's like, okay, so what is this? Like, I saw you had a conversation with Dominic, and I've had a conversation with Dominic. It's just, I adore Dominic. And he has this whole thing, this creation thing. And it almost sort of felt with my religious days, and then with the principles days, this whole idea of deliberately creating stuff or something, it almost felt like out of, I know when, like, in my religion, as a child, there were definitely things that we do not speak about that, and it's evil, it's not something we do. And it almost felt like the same, when people are talking about manifestation and creation and things like that. It's kind of like, no, to talk about the principles, you evil person, what are you doing, sort of thing. And then there was, quite a few people went off down and started to look a lot more at the non-duality side of it and things like that. And I definitely dabbled quite a lot. And as I say, there's things I like, but also I feel that, as I said, I sort of got to a point and I'm like, well, I want to do something. I want to, I like this idea of creating. It appeals to me. I like it. What is that? What is that about? And starting to look in that direction. And really, that I like it.
Completely.
And I've almost the little bits that I've heard you speak about, and it feels like something similar. I don't know when for you, sort of.
No, totally. I mean, I can sort of trace it back to I can't remember exactly which video, but I watched a video of Steve Hardison sometime before Christmas last year, 2022. And I just, if you like, I looked at how he was being in the video, and then I watched another one, and I watched another one. And my first thought was, whoa, this is coaching gold. Because I think one of the challenges of if you're a coach listening to this is, how do you get like live experience of like really, really good coaching, like really like world-class coaching? Because that's kind of vital, because I mean, for any of us, we only know what we know. And if your universe has never been blown apart by seeing something or experiencing something really quite spectacular, then how would you know? You just wouldn't. You're going to work within your frame. That's just how it plays out. So I was watching him and I thought, oh, this is amazing. And I started writing notes and stuff about it and sharing them around, just because I'm quite noisy, so that's what I do. But then the next thing that kind of dawned on me was like, he's having a lot of fun being Steve.
Yeah, yes, that's what I saw in Dominic. You know, he's having a lot of
Yeah,
fun
and
there.
you could put Dominic in there as well, or
Yeah.
you put a whole bunch of names in there, and it's like he seems to have got, or I mean, it looks like from the outside he seems to have got through that. Wow, everything's amazing. Oh my God, it's all awful. Wow, everything's amazing. Oh my God, which a lot of people get stuck in that oscillation pattern,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that can go on for years. And I think the big kicker about that one is there's lots of self-destruction goes on during that phase. So like when I was going through that, I remember being like a bit embarrassed by it, didn't want to talk about it, and felt like I was failing, or other people were getting it and I wasn't getting it, and somehow that played out all my worst nightmares of being inadequate, all that kind of stuff. It just flushed the whole lot out, and I didn't see that as a flush out at the time. It just felt like really difficult to handle, and so I just, when that occurred, I would go to ground. I just literally like disappear, and handle it like internally. So probably not the best move actually, but there we are. Hey ho. So I watched Steve in action, and I just thought, yeah, and you could use Dominic, a bunch of other people. I thought, man, Kathy Casey, actually, there's another great one as an example. Like, man, he's having fun Steving. Like, whoa. And then I just started, and then the question came, well, are you having as much fun Daving as he is Steving? And I thought, oh, I'm not sure I am actually. I could share the story as you did. You know, lots of things have improved, and I'm slightly less of a fruitcake. I lose my temper like 1 out of 10 times instead of 11 out of 10 times. That I could draw examples of all of that, but in terms of overall quality of being, so I kind of said to him, well, if let's say he's a 10, then where do I think I am? And it wasn't anywhere near a 10. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. Could you claim to know a lot about this stuff? So it's interesting that you claim to know it, and you don't seem to be, that doesn't seem to be your lived experience. So somewhere along the lines, you must have a mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
You must be out of alignment. However that looks, but like that can't be. How can you claim to understand and share this and whatever, and it's not your lived experience? That's a bit, not so sure about that, David. So I was like, oh no, here we go again. Pull big boy pants up and all that. And yeah, and then a whole series of like fascinating events ended up with going to Mumbai. And like for that event alone, I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, because and there was literally 2 weeks to go before the event, when the ticket appeared, and then I did all the flights and the hotels and the visa and everything, and I thought, right, well, if I'm going to spend, I don't know, best part of $3,000, I suppose it was, all in with hotels and whatever, for 3 days, I literally went for 3 days, then I'm going to go and do this as I've never done it before. Like normally if I go to retreats or whatever, they follow a pattern, and the pattern is, go, be vaguely open, but keep myself to myself. And so that there's, and so I started to see all these Dave patterns that played out. Like I saw that I had a way of watching interviews, which I'd never seen. It's like I have a way of watching interviews. What the hell is that? Where did that start? I have a way of listening to people and dismissing them like really rapidly. And so all these patterns started to become visible. It was like, whoa, this was like being faced with your own like subconscious creation, which I didn't even know was going on. And then and it's that kind of apocryphal moment where you go like, I don't know shit about this. I'm gonna have to face it. I'm full of what I think I know. I don't know anything about this, right? But this guy's living it. And so do I want to be the kind of academic quacky twonk who always answers with the same kind of non-dual or principle-based response? Oh, well, there is no self or whatever. or do I want to be on fire with life? Right, I'll go for that then.
I was going to say, I bet that was a difficult choice to make.
I'll go for that. I'll go for that then, you know. I'll take that. And it was like, okay, well, that's probably going to be a bit uncomfortable, and you're going to consume a lot of humble crumble. But the prize looks good. That looks like a life well lived. And that really was it. It was like, yeah, it was just what you're doing there. Bouncy, bouncy, boing. Like, whoa, hang on. And then when your brain kind of switches into that, you start to think, hang on, I used to be really good at, you know, causing mischief and having fun. Where's that gone then?
Yeah.
And so it was like, I don't know whether you found the same, but it was like things just started switching on again. It was like,
Yeah.
it would start to crank up, and you know, yeah, it was like flying the F-14 again on the Top Gun Maverick movie last year, when he finds that that's how he finds that that's how he's going to get out of the situation, and like, whoa, it still works. There's bits of Dave that still worked. It was like, oh, that's quite cool. I remember that bit. That was fun. So I just got lost in my own spiritual bullshit story. You know, I won't be the first. I certainly won't be the last. And it was like, so he was like, what Steve was, you know, who he was for me was, he was like a giant permission frame. He said it's okay to fully live humanly. And I'd heard a lot of other people say it, but I didn't relate to their characters as much. They're often quite softly spoken, gentle folk. I'd never really sort of seen myself in that. He was like a full-on, in-your-face, type A, salesy, businessy, bang. And I'm like, yeah, I recognize that. That's like looking in a mirror. And so when somebody you relate to, which is an energetic thing, goes, do you know what? You can be you. So there could be one person who listens to this, who responds to my kind of energy and goes, oh, shit, I could do that. I'm holding back on it, you know, and there'll be a lot of people who hear it and they'll be like, oh, shut up, man. That's just too much. No. And they'll hear you and they'll go, oh, yeah. So we're looking for like these energetic signals all the time. We're scanning the airwave for it. And for me, he was like, oh, you're so lost. You're so confused. Just like, wake up, boy, wake up. That's what it was like.
I can so relate to that. In like, you know, my story is slightly different, but so similar, as in like it looks to me like my troubles, if you like, started when my mum and me are polar opposite personalities, because I am definitely, put me on a stage, give me a microphone, let me at them, let me talk, let me do this, let me be loud. And my mum is, let me be the person who nobody even knows is in the room because I'm so quiet and I just sit here. And that's, you know, and I definitely, my mom tried to protect me because I wanted to do all these things. So then I got this idea that there's something wrong with me because, you know, I have this urge to dance on a table with people watching me. I quite like it, you know, and obviously I'm totally wrong. I definitely shouldn't be doing that.
Well, that just depends on whether you're on my table or not.
You know, and equally then, even when I came across the principles, and, you know, by then it was sort of like, you know, my business is called Dare to Be You, because it was like I found a lot of myself again. It was kind of like, yeah, completely do this. Yeah. Then it almost seemed like everybody in the principles world was kind of saying, oh, this is this quiet, soft, thing that we do. It's in the silence. And I'm like, oh, Deb, shut up. Don't listen. Stop talking. Listen. You're supposed to listen. You're not supposed to talk. You're supposed to listen. And I'm like, oh gosh, I love talking. I love being the center of attention. I'm wrong. I'm wrong again. I don't fit in. And then, yeah, I think this whole, like, you hearing this, what you want, your desires, what comes through you is yours. And this doesn't, and I think, again, it's this whole idea of it's this or that. Like, either my mom was right or I was right. And I couldn't make my mom wrong, so I had to try and be like her, but that made me wrong, and so that hurt. you know, and it was trying to find, I know when I came on your call, it was like this constant trying to find the right answer, the right answer, the right answer.
Yeah.
And like this, for me, it just dawned on me, it's not duh, you know, it's that one, like you say, how did we miss that? It's like this great huge thing right in front of you. How the hell did you miss that?
Yeah,
But
completely.
it's like, Dave should be Dave, Deb should be Deb, you know, Beck should be Beck, Luke, my mom should be who she is, and that is perfect. But it is, you know, if you are called like Steve, yes, Steve has a blast Steving, and Amy has a blast Amying, and they're okay with, you know, them being like that. And I know it's been a huge evolution over the last couple of years here. You know, we live together. I live with Lou and Beck. We live and work together, and my partner is here too, bless him, and he needs a medal, poor man.
Yeah, notice how well trained I am. I just kept totally silent.
Yes he's incredibly well trained. You know, he knows. Oh, that's one of those moments where I say, yes dear, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah,
nailed it.
And if it's about somebody else, that's when I know to keep quiet. So smile. Yeah.
But this, you know, me, Lou and Beck, like everybody, there are many places where we are exactly the same, but then as we've sort of as we are living into our understanding of the principles, we're also very, very different. And then I think all of us in our own ways had this whole, we wanted each other's approval, we wanted each other to feel the same about it, we wanted you know, this kind of thing. And that was my bullshit loop that I kind of stuck in. It's like Lou and Beck have got to approve of me, they've got to do things that I approve of, and they've got to approve of me. And then, you know, I'm seeing things and liking, you know, liking how Dominic speaks or something. I say, oh my gosh, this is the best thing. And they're like, and then, you know, oh, I like this. I really like this doing thing that Steve Hardison talks about. Not doing anything for me. And they're kind of like going off with what they're liking and they're enjoying. And it's, and I call it my sheepdog mode. It's like I'm trying to bring everybody back together. I'm trying to make us all by either changing me or changing them. And a little bit like you say, it's like you recognize these patterns. It's like, oh yeah, that's a Deb pattern, isn't it? You don't like it when people are different from you. And then I heard all this evidence of, I'm sure nobody in the principal said to me, you can't speak, you need to be loud, you know, you can't be loud, you can't live your life the way you want to live it. But I definitely heard, oh, this is a quiet thing, this is a thing where you sit in meditation for hours, you don't, you know, bounce around, you don't dance, you don't live in this way. And it's like, oh no.
I love that.
About this whole coming. And I think I think I sort of recognize some of that in you. It's like, I actually want to be who I am fully, just embrace it, own it, be it, love it, and just love the people who love it, love the people who don't love it. That's great.
It's brilliant. a friend of mine said, he said, you're like a racehorse that's been stuck in the paddock. And rather than recognizing you're a racehorse, you've been trying to change yourself to be a paddock horse, whatever that would be. When you're supposed to run, that's the whole point of how you're built. You're supposed to be out there sprinting, jumping fences, making noise, doing stuff. And somehow, somewhere in, as you're saying, somewhere in there, you've decided that that's not okay, you know, unconsciously. And so you've adopted other ways of being to try and find the feeling that you think is missing or whatever. I was thinking about when you were saying there about Kathy Casey, actually. She's in mine because I've watched a couple of videos she's done recently and I love her. She's just awesome. But I remember her describing what it felt like when she first came across Keith Blevins. And she was like, she loved him, but she was like, he's so slow.
Yeah, he's like a tortoise, isn't he? He's
like,
monotone.
She'd say hello, and he'd wait, and you think, and she'd be thinking, are you ever going to say anything? You know. And I remember the same with Keith. The funny thing is, last time I heard Keith, I remember thinking, wow, Keith sped up. That's really, you know, so that there you go. There's perception at play for you. But I think that's the beautiful thing. And whether people weren't saying it, whether I wasn't hearing it, I don't know. I don't know that what it was, but I don't remember really getting the idea that this whole game was really about finding your own vibration, your own way of being that is so natural to you that you won't even notice, because because you're not doing it. It's just literally who you're being, and then being that, it just so sounds like there's somewhere else
I think
where do you know what I mean? It sounds like there's a version of Dave
one.
it can't be this one.
No.
No, there must be like a slightly improved version or a slightly diminished version. And yet, yeah, no, not at all. Far from it. Yeah, nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing can be more helpful than you being you. There is literally nothing anybody can do that is more helpful in the world. In fact, I would argue that me being me is more helpful to the world than Bill Gates giving away his fortune.
I would agree.
Because when you're you, everything change everyone you meet all the time. Like forget all this creating client stuff, whatever that even means anymore. I don't know. Everybody you meet, you're just pulsing Debness or Daveness, whoever listens, or Steveness or Dominicness or Lucyness or Bexness, whatever anybody listens to that. If pixie dust came down and everybody woke up and went, oh wow, so I just get to be me then. Oh, why didn't someone tell me?
Yeah, that's the crux of this, isn't it? It really is, and it is like, yeah, well, how did I miss that? How did I think I had to stop myself being who I am to fit in, to find the right way to do? And it is, it's
fascinating, because for a long time, to try and, inverted commas, make my coaching practice work, I tried all sorts of ways of twisting things and framing things and whatever, and now it's quite simple. I say to people, look, do you want to have more fun, whatever their name is, let's say Gary, do you want to have more fun Garying? Is that your number one priority? And they're like, yeah, no, I'd like that. Cool, I can help you then. And it could be that we talk about business or relationships or whatever on the way, but the primary objective is you having a great time youing. That's it. And if you want some other stuff, then go to someone else. And I've got loads of mates who are dead good at stuff, so I can probably give you a long list of names. But if you really, really wake up and go, do you know what? I just want to have a cool time being me, and then whatever comes out of that, I'm totally good with. Like if I could, and that's what I saw in Hardison. I thought, God, if I could have as much fun Daving as he's having Steving, I wouldn't care what I was doing. If God went, you're going to work in Costa, so be it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun in Costa anyway. There'd be all these people to torment and tease and drive mad. Do you know what I mean? Except I'd never be able to remember the drinks. That would worry the life out of me, because my memory's like about half a second. I wouldn't have a clue. So outside of that, I'd be like, whoa, people all day queuing to talk to. Awesome. And if it turns into a coaching practice, awesome. And if it turns into live retreats, awesome. And if somebody phones up and goes, could you run the country? Awesome. Or could you just sit still under a tree? Awesome. I don't mind. If I get to wake up and Dave, I'm good with whatever gets thrown at me, apart from when I'm not, and that's normal. But yeah, that looks like the game to me.
Yeah, me too. That's absolutely it. And I think that all of those things, I guess we see innocently and accidentally, we see people having great relationships and we think the answer is a relationship. We see people running a business and think you could easily look at Steve Hardison and think, oh, okay, so it's being the ultimate coach, being the best coach in the world is where happiness comes from. And that's the kind of slightly we miss that actually what makes Steve tick, be be himself, is Stevie.
Completely.
Absolutely. And I can really see that with Dominic as well. Like, he just
Completely.
Dominics the shit out of life.
Completely. Yeah.
And I can really see when I just Deb, that's when I'm happiest. And then when I kind of when I think that, oh, in this arena, in this space, when I go here or when I do this, then that's when you don't Deb anymore. That's when you are, I don't know, whatever you are. And it's just like, no. But like you say, when you actually do that, all of those, whatever things show up, whatever it is, like you begin, I guess you begin to see that it's not the business, it's not the relationship, it's not that, it's just you're being who you truly are, and all of that is like icing on the cake, and it just works if that's what you're doing, and it doesn't matter which it is. It just, it's so irrelevant what it is.
Exactly.
It's just fun. Whereas when you're trying to, I can see, that's that whole trying to find the right thing, trying to, and I guess innocently, a lot of people who we ask for advice or we look towards or we get to help us do kind of say, oh yeah, actually, having a great business and earning, if you sort of say, I like the idea of a business, if you have a great business innocently, and we get the message that, that is going to create this happiness that you're seeing in this person. If you emulate that person, you're going to be like them, but it's like, well, if you're not like them fundamentally.
Well, I love what you're pointing at there. And it occurred to me that what we're really hearing or what we're really feeling, so it's in the feeling, is the energy from which the words are coming. That's what's speaking.
Yeah.
Like, so if people listening to this, and I love your idea, by the way, the 60 interviews, or 60 conversations, it's such fun. Like, if people hear that, it's because something in the energy exchange will catalyze something that they already know is true and make it visible for them. So really, we could talk about anything. It really wouldn't matter what we talked about. Principles, non-duality, Christianity, Islam, though I know nothing about that.
No.
Fascinates me, but I don't know anything about it. So football, don't know much about that anymore either. Prices of goods in Sainsbury's, I do know quite a lot about that. My current gym obsession, we could talk about that. So, and that's really, in these sort of being visible things I've been doing, that's really what I've been saying is like, but sometimes when people say to us, oh, well, it's just about that, that's what the words are saying, but energetically they're not saying that, and that's the problem. So their mouths are going, well, you just need to be you, but their energy is going, but I'm shit scared of that. So you're hearing their energy, and if you're really sensitive, and my suspicion is I am, Hardison's like off the sensitivometer, then you're and I bet a lot of the listeners are actually. I bet I put money on it. This is going on YouTube, isn't it? Right. So please, anybody who's listening, if you're listening to this and you're getting something from it, comment if you would consider yourself, or if you now consider yourself as a highly sensitive person, because my bet is you are. That's my gambit for nothing. So if someone's saying to you, well, you just need to be you, but their entire energy is saying, but I don't know what that is, and I haven't found that yet, and I'm uncomfortable, then that's what you're going to feel, and that's what your neurology will pick up. It'll dismiss the platitude, and that's part of the challenge of our industry, really, is that it's become so much about the words. And it's or the feeling, but then the feeling has to be a certain type of feeling, and it's the feeling of you being you, which isn't a feeling in the sense of being a feeling because it's so innate to you that it's just obvious. So I can't describe what this feeling is now. I just know it's the Daveness of Dave. That's it. And I know that when I hit this point, the people who are to utilize it in their own game will be able to do that. And that's it. That's basically what I've got. That's my entire game.
And I think I just want to go back to something you said earlier, which really resonated with me. And this, really, this occurred to me early on in my journey. And again, what I can see is in the areas where I took it on and ran with it, great things happened. And in the areas where it scared, or, I had this idea that it was something else. But that was that when you said it would be, if you could just Dave out in the world, that is worth more than anything else.
Yep.
And definitely, that was a huge realization for me. If I could just Deb, then that is the biggest gift I could give to my kids. My whole family was in a terrible mess, but anyway, and it was like, how do I fix this? How do I how do I fix my children? And this realization that the only thing I have to give is to truly, really be me, just be me. And this whole, I had invitations from people who were, that's selfish, or, what you put your kids through, you have no right to be happy, you have all this sort of thing. And the pull to not be me still, but it was like, no, the only thing I have to give actually is me really being me. And in the arenas where I really saw that, like relationships was the place that I totally messed up. I ended up in a really nasty, horrible relationship and in a refuge and all sorts of things. And my kids got, it was very messy and not great. But then coming to that realization of I had been a people pleaser and trying to be everything everybody else thought I should be, and not allowing myself to be. I didn't know who I was at all. And then exactly, when you said those words, the biggest gift I've got to give to the world is to be Dave. And I really saw that the biggest gift in relationships, and relationships is the place in the world now. That's brilliant, that is great. And then it was like other areas of my life, like the business, like you're saying, it's kind of like, oh, okay, so business is in a different box. So you don't do business by being Deb, you do business by talking to someone who's created a business before, who tells you to find a niche and do this and do this and do this and do this. And while there is nothing wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those things, but again, I was just coming back to that. Okay, the biggest gift I'm giving is being Deb, here, and that's going great. But now I'm going to do this thing, create a business, because I just love this. Okay, so stop being Deb here, because that clearly is not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Be this business person, fit it, get yourself in this box.
Yes, that's right.
Stop doing the things that making sense to you. Do what business people do, sort of thing. And it's like, oh, and I think that's definitely dawned on me a little bit, like you're saying, really. That's been more of a recent thing over the last kind of year or two, whatever, that it's like, why the hell did you have these, a couple of things in your life set up differently? You can see, and I can feel when I'm debbing, like you say, don't even know how you do it, but it's just like, it's great, it works out. And
completely,
then,
yeah.
Then I have exactly areas where it's like, don't do that.
Yeah, no, totally. And if it doesn't, then that's okay too. Because the contract, I love what you're saying there. The contract, this is how I'm hearing it. The contract is sort of between you and the universe being you, there being no separation between any of it. That's really it. So I mean, I get, it's interesting over the years, having done a few of these in various forms, but I'll still get people reach out occasionally from like interviews. There's one particularly, I think, which was quite cool, I did with Phil Goddard some years ago, and I still get probably once, twice a year somebody messaged me going, "Oh, I've just listened to that interview you did with Phil in 2015. Can we talk?" What? I don't know what, but do you know what I mean? So it's a resonance thing as much as anything.
It's the vibration, the energy, the resonance.
Completely, yeah, that's what it is. And you become,
Yeah.
And you can see that all these ideas like attraction marketing, whatever, they're all kind of pointing in the right way. But if you don't have the piece around becoming your own energetic vortex,
It's
then you'll, and that again, I go back to what I've been saying in the being visible thing. You'll be making all the noise. So the only reason, in a sense, that people are curious and reaching out now is, yes, I'm making noise. I made a lot of noise before, but the noise now is different. It's got a feel to it. It's cleaner. That's my sense of it. And people are picking up on that because their cleansing mechanism is going, oh, I like that. And that's what I saw in Hardison. It was like, bloody hell, he's out there at 20 million miles an hour, but he's spotless. He's the spotless rose. And you go to, I was listening to Byron Katie when I was in the gym this morning. Man alive, everything she says just piles into you.
She is just clear as a bell.
Totally,
She's total. She's like a knife, a hot knife going through butter. There is
totally, yeah. She's kind of, she's
not,
butter with soft skin sort of thing, and you can just see how people must have been drawn to Sid, and all these people, and then in our own tiny way, people will come to us and say, look, what you got going on? Somebody messaged me and said, whatever you've got going on, whatever you heard in Hardison, I want you to do that with me. That was the request. Like, whatever that is. And I'm honest with people, like, I don't quite know what that is, but can I do that with you? No, but I know you can.
Yeah.
So I'll hang out with you until such time as that is likely to occur, and we'll endeavor to make that as fun as possible, because we might as well. Is that a business? Well, yeah, it looks like it to me, because people pay me for that. They pay for the access, for the catalytic potential to recognize themselves in themselves and then be that in the world. And
that is what being ourselves when we go out there, because I can see, like, if we go pretty much right back to the beginning of this conversation and talk about that evangelical stage, that was definitely me with my children, my kids. It was like, you've got to hear this. If you hear this, something's going to change for you. You've got to hear it. And they literally ran a mile. It was like, oh my God, what's going on with mom now, sort of thing. And then at some point, that statement you made about the only thing I've got to give is be Dave, it occurred to me that the only thing, I'm the one that's got to live this. And definitely, I
totally,
heard in Byron Katie, it's like, right, you want your kids to be better, you be better then. You do Completely. It, model this, you go out and do it.
Yeah.
And that was definitely, it was like, right, you are gonna walk your talk. You are really gonna do this.
Yeah, I love that. I love it.
And then,
if we think our kids are lost, we're lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I saw, exactly what you're saying, when I started doing this one by one, I got 3 children, and one by one, all 3 of them were like, what the hell's happened to you, Mom? What tell me, you wanted to tell me something. What was it you wanted to tell me now? In varying ways. And it was like, when I was just trying to do that to them, was never going to happen. When I just kind of like, right, okay, just make this about you, just go out, just live this for yourself, know it, know what you can know, change who you are, who are you being, who are you showing up as, do that. And then that is what people come towards. That is what people, and the most important people in my life, my children, were the ones that were first, and Lou and Beck, that's how come they were like, what the hell happened to Auntie Deb?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
Oh, well, I have thoroughly enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah, me too. I get the sense we could talk all day. We're both talkers.
Yeah. I get that sense too. No, that was really good. I think, though I hope there was something really useful in there to people, but I will stop the recording there.